Ladies and gents, welcome back. The Criminal Code of Canada has been a topic as of recent. Well, it's always a topic in Canada because we all have to abide by it. And one of these things that hasn't been happening, at least in the month of June and possibly moving forward as this becomes Pride season, is people breaking the Criminal Code of Canada when it comes to disorderly conduct. And today I have a guest to talk about this, someone who has some personal experience with this situation recently, and that's Rob Primo. Thanks so much for joining me, Rob.
Thanks for having me as well, Clyde. How you doing tonight?
Good. I'm doing good. So recently you had a call that went viral. I showcased this on the video just the other day. But you called the police over an incident and reported, an ongoing crime. And what was your experience without having to show the video?
Yes, of course. So what happened is I seen, it was the Pride Festival in Toronto, and I seen there was, a lot of families there. It was a big event. There were a lot of different people from the community out there. And there were several times where I've seen, a handful of imagery now of adults who were, completely in their birthday suit. And I didn't feel like this was appropriate attire for children who were spectating. And there was also a lot of different angles where the photographer was, taking a video of this taking place and then panning it right over to the children on the side of the road. And you can see these children's face and they look very confused, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. And, you can tell it's something that they haven't seen before. So I called the police and I made a report about it. Sorry, I didn't make a report about it. I just spoke with them, but the call was very shocking. And the reason being is once I got the officer on the phone, I said to him, if I want to go outside right now, unclothed, can I do that? And his answer was like, of course, no. And then I said, well, the other day I seen some people who were not wearing clothing in public, and there were plenty of children in attendance who were able to see everything that was going on out there. And the gentleman then said to me, oh, was this at the Pride Parade? And I said, yes, it was. And he said, oh, well, that's something that we need to deal with every year. And then I repeated, I said, well, what do you mean that you have to deal with it? And he said, well, this happens every year during Pride in Toronto. So then I said, so you're telling me that when it's Pride season, it's basically okay for individuals to be in their birthday suit in the street, but any time of the year they can't do that. They can just do this during Pride. And his answer was yes, exactly. And I just said, okay, thank you, bye, because at that time I had captured on camera what it is that I want to show the people in our country. I want to show them that we've become so complicit that the people that we hire to serve and protect our communities, they're not even following the law that they're supposed to be enforcing. They're kind of letting these things just go on because I feel that under the banner of, diversity, equity, and inclusion, these crimes are being committed and they're okay under that banner.
Well, that's the thing, and I showcased this just this past week, and this is the actual Criminal Code of Canada, where Section 73 says everyone who willfully does an incident or does an indecent act in a public place or presence in presence of one or more persons or any other place intent to insult or offend any person is guilty of an indictable offense. And the punishments are laid out there. And it says every person who is in any place for a sexual purpose exposes his or her genital organs or a person who is under the age of 16. Now, in a lot of these cases, this is what's actually being happening. And some people might say that, it's innocuous, it's not for a sexual purpose. Well, what would Pride be if not for showcasing the sexuality of people in its nature, and that's the whole purpose of the LGB part of Pride, the original aspect of it. Now, nobody's saying that people can't be proud and go celebrate their thing. It's more a case of indecent exposure and things that shouldn't be shown to children, and that's the gist of what I got from your complaint there.
Yeah, that's exactly the gist of it, Clyde. And I mean, if people want to have certain sections that are adult only for adult entertainment, I don't think there's too many people that would be opposed to that. But just like alcohol or other things we see at these events, there's a section for that somewhere else that's nowhere around the children. Or there's ways to go about this where we don't need to expose this to our children because it's not something that's for children's eyes.
Yeah, so tell me about it. Like you've gone to a few of these events now. So what prompted you to go even in the first place?
Yeah, so the first one I went to was in St. Catharines, and it was an event called Pride in the Park. And the reason that I went is, immediately as soon as this month began, um, there's a lot of things that get hyperinflated on the internet. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a lot of different channels putting these videos out there, putting out certain types of dancing in front of children that are extremely inappropriate. And it's hard for me to watch as a parent with three children who loves his child more than anything in the world. It's hard to watch these things going on in our community. So I thought to myself, you know what? Instead of seeing this and complaining and just doing nothing about it, why don't I finally go and take one of these events in? So I did just that. I got in my car and I went to Montebello Park in St. Catharines and I went to Pride in the Park. When I approached Montebello Park, it looked just like any other public event from far. There was a lot of people, there was a lot of children. The Niagara Regional Police were there on site and they were involved. The paramedics were there on site and they were involved. Liberal Member of Parliament Chris Biddle was there and involved. Liberal Member of Parliament Vance Badaway was there and was involved. The Niagara Regional Police Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Unit was there and involved. And it looked just like this big family event that had a $5,000 support package from the local municipal government. But once I got in, I realized something. I started to go past the vendors, and one of the vendors had a stand set up, and it was about 7 or 8 feet high. And when I approached that stand, I was very shocked to find that the art that was on display was the type of art that is for people who are 18 plus, if you get my drift.
I get it. No, I get it.
Not,
You're dancing around the words as we have to on YouTube because when you talk about these subjects, you have to watch what you say. But yeah, absolutely, it was inappropriate for children and inappropriate to be shown in a public place.
And not only was it inappropriate for children, I showed up just at a time as there was a child beside me who I would probably say was around 3 or 4 years old. And the child literally looked at his father and said, like, "Dad, what's that?" and was super confused. And it made me feel really uncomfortable to be there knowing that a child is being exposed to this, but that's not my child. So as the day went on, I continued to, take in what was on display. And I actually took some pictures myself of what was on display. And I continued to walk around the event. And, after a while, I took off. And when I got home, I had someone send a video to me. And it was very interesting once I had this video sent to me, because what happens in this video is there was a queen who was dancing. And while he was dancing, there was kids who were in attendance in the audience who were handing bills over in exchange for the performance on stage, which is something that I also found inappropriate, because we all know with the culture out there, when you're paying an adult, in financial increments to
We know
perform,
what that means. We know what that means.
We know what that means. And that's not a good look for our kids. Now, not only did this happen, but unfortunately, when the performer got off of the stage, they came down right in front of where the kids are, where they were enjoying the performance or whatever you want to call it. And they did the splits. And unfortunately, when they did the splits, male genitalia was exposed to the children. And, this was just a very disappointing thing to see happen in my community because, when you chalk it all up at the end of the day, now we have the indecent art, we have the adult dancing for kids, and we also have the indecent exposure of male parts. And,
Mhm.
I didn't really know what to do immediately when I had all of this. So I kind of sat on it a little bit and I talked about it with a few different friends of mine. And, I figured, well, what else could you do other than call the police? So we filed a complaint with the Niagara Regional Police. And I was told that there's an open investigation, which made me happy because after having a lengthy conversation with the officer, I wanted to make it clear that this doesn't have to do with anyone's particular community, but it has to do with realizing that we need to call out this behavior no matter what community is, it's not acceptable.
Mhm.
And we need to make sure that we're setting that precedent so certain communities, no matter what you're aligned with, can't get away with this in public. So, to my surprise, after about 2 days, I got an email back that was letting me know that the investigation was closed. And I was told that the results of this was they were going to reach out to the organizers from Pride in the Park. And when they had reached out to them, they were going to have a conversation and talk about how they need to make sure this doesn't happen next year. But the police also let me know that if the Pride organizers don't get back in touch with them, that they don't have any obligation to get back in touch with them and that there's nothing they can do about it. So I took this
So
email
so
in
that's it. There's just no punishment and there's no recourse for. I mean,
and
my
and
assumption would be that they would not allow the event to take place the following year if they didn't have some sort of disciplinary action of some sort.
yet, in a perfect world, that's what we would think would happen. But,
Hmm.
once again, I got this email and I was a little upset. So I called the police officer back who was in charge of this investigation. And I said, I don't want to press you too much, but I'm really disappointed with this outcome. I said, there's a lot of crimes that I think the police aren't speaking to right now. And that's why I did the job on my Saturday, on my day with my family, to go there and document this because this isn't what I want for my children's community growing up.
Hmm.
And the lady said to me, I said, I recited the criminal code like you just did there. And I said, how does this not work? How is there no charges? And she said to me, I'll tell you why. This is what we chalk it down as. And she goes, the male exposure comes down to a wardrobe malfunction.
Right.
Okay.
So it was
And
unintentional.
I said to it was unintentional. And within it to have a healthy, argument with that, I kind of get the wardrobe malfunction. However, I think it's important that we realize as men that if we put ourselves into that type of clothing and did similar action, that we would be full well knowing that that's probably what the outcome was going to be. Correct? Am I right,
Well,
Clyde?
yeah, no, yeah, that's exactly it. But I mean, I would go a step
um,
further and I say just the act itself of the dancing in a seductive fashion in front of a bunch of children is wildly inappropriate for behavior around children, and that shouldn't happen in the first place. But I understand you're giving a little bit more liberty and getting into the technicalities of it. But yeah, no, if you feel like your junk's gonna fly out, maybe don't do the splits in front of a bunch of kids. Yeah, that could be
yeah,
chalked up to that.
exactly. And then I think the hardest thing to take in for me was when we got back to talking about the art that was on display for adults only that everyone had access to. And I said, well, how can you justify, that being there in front of children? And she said, well, this is where it got tricky. And she goes to me, the reason I can't lay a charge is because it was artwork And artwork is protected under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms as your freedom of expression. So we're
Well,
not
I would
allowed to
argue that
lay a
that's not
charge.
actually true. That's not actually true in the case of what they call lolly stuff, and that's been ruled on by our Supreme Court that is not acceptable. It's outside of the parameters of what is considered art. It is considered that is considered CP. I can't say the word for that, and
Yes.
so
Yes.
I think that would lay the framework to say that no, it's not art. And I understand there for some people the difference between art and adult entertainment could be a blurry line, but it really it really isn't that much of a blurry line, and we should really be able to clearly distinguish between, especially at a festival that is talking about sexuality. If it's about sexuality, it is a sexual thing in that place, and
Yeah, and
that's
I
kind of
mean,
where I sit on that one.
and the thing that really hurts about the whole situation is remembering that this is an event that was extremely endorsed by counselors in our area. We have a counselor, Lori Ip, and the two Liberal members of Parliament, Vance Badaway and Chris Biddle. They really endorsed this, and same with the mayor of St. Catharines, Matt Cisco. And I've been trying to reach out to Matt ever since this happened, because I was hoping, he's a newer mayor in our community, and I was hoping that after an event like this happens in your community, and you put the money forward to have this event in the community, is this the outcome that you wanted to have? Because as a parent, I would like to think this isn't what you expected was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I've been trying to communicate with him, because I'd like him to, publicly address this and say, what happened that day was wrong. But he won't even return my email.
Well, I think it seems to be like a systemic thing. It keeps happening over and over in different cities, along with this thing, and where I stand on this is the law. Is the letter of the law? Is it the letter of the law, or is it we enforce the laws in places where we like to choose? And if not, well, why don't we change the laws if that's the case, and then bring that by and have a referendum and let the people vote on it? And if they don't vote in the favor of changing it, then we should absolutely enforce them where applicable. Now, Rob, where can people find you? By the way, Rob, you're going to be coming on the show on Friday evening, so a lot of people can look forward to that. I'm looking forward to having longer conversation with you, not just this story. But where can people find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at the Rob Primo one. After the video that went out last night, I'm a pretty hard guy to find on there, but if you search it, you'll be able to find me at some point. I'm also on Instagram at the Rob Primo, and then I was just mentioning to Clyde that I have a YouTube channel at the Rob Primo, and I really want to start putting out some more content on there. So I'd love to connect with some of you on there, and looking forward to coming back on with you tomorrow night, Clyde.
Perfect. So links as always in the description down below. So check him out, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.